You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Incentives have made a huge comeback, so it's important for dealers to stay true to their messaging in order to stand out from the competition. Here now to talk more on this very topic, as highlighted in his recent LinkedIn newsletter, is Mr. Glenn Pasch, who is the CEO of PCG Digital and also an auto marketing expert, been around the auto industry for a lot of years. Everybody knows you, Glenn, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. Always here to support you.
Great. And when I say a lot of years, I don't mean you're an old guy like me. I just mean that
oh no,
you've been doing this for a little bit of time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I know. The years start adding up when you go, I started. Oh my God, that's a long time ago.
I know. I've done that myself. Where for a long time, you said I've been doing this for 10 years, and then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, it's more like 20 years. It's crazy.
I know.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, so talk to us about this. Incentives are back. How can car dealers best strike a balance between leveraging incentives and maintaining their messaging and brand promise to their consumers in their market?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when it was a few years ago, even right after COVID, and the messaging basically was, well, we have the vehicle, but the key is that if you didn't have the inventory, you had to really leverage on the experience and what you were going to do and how we take care of our customers. And that messaging was very important, and it helped a lot of dealers be very successful to stand out in the market.
Sure.
Well, now as inventory is back and everybody more or less has equal number of inventory, let's say, and now the manufacturers are saying, well, we're going to use incentives to gain traction. It's still important to keep that messaging, because if everybody has it, it's just like when I didn't have it, I have to deliver and promote why you should be coming to me.
Right. So how are you recommending dealers leverage analytics to identify obstacles in the customer journey?
Oh, that's great. And I think the easiest way for a dealer to think this through is follow the customer. Mm-hmm. So thinking through of how can a customer connect with your team? It can be, on your website. It could be through a third party. They could call you up. Maybe it's a chat feature or a digital retailing tool. But what we're seeing is if you're out promoting that you're going to make it easy for your customers to do business, and we're going to be very transparent, which is a big word. We're going to give you all this information.
Yeah.
Some of the obstacles are putting up forms still. So if you have a button on your website that says check availability, the assumption from a consumer would be, if I click this, I'm going to get my answer.
Right.
Or get your price, and I'm going to click this, I'm going to get my answer. They're not expecting in this day and age to get a form to say, well, first you have to tell me your name, give me your email, phone number, and then we'll call you back when it's convenient to us.
Right.
You're losing that
doesn't
immediacy.
work.
Well, yeah, because we as consumers would not put up with that in any of our shopping experiences. If we went to Amazon or even to a hotel and they said,
That's
well,
right.
We're not going to show you the prices till you give us your name, you'd be, this is silly. So in analytics, what you should be able to see, if your website is set up correctly, you should be able to see how many people clicked that check availability button. Mm-hmm. Then you go into CRM and say, well, how many people gave me their name? And then you might see this big disconnected, what I call a delta, where you might get 50 leads and you're happy, but what happens if 400 people during that month click the button?
That's right.
You missed an opportunity to talk to 350 people.
Absolutely.
Who are raising their hand to say, I'd like to talk to somebody.
That's right. What do you recommend as a result of this?
I think that it depends on your setup in terms of what you're capable, but my recommendation would be start testing. What if I took just that one button, and if somebody clicked it, a chat popped up, mm-hmm. and someone in my team, be it if it's a BDC or internet team or someone, lets the bot, maybe, the AI bot start the conversation, but some human during business hours on your team gets there and starts talking to that person about the car. Now, the problem is some people will say, well, my sales team doesn't want to do it because they're not real. I may not get their name. Well, if somebody walked on your lot, you're not giving them the, third degree to get their name and phone number and email. Yeah. You just want to talk about the car.
That's right.
Same mentality. So that's where I would start. And then based on that success, maybe start removing all forms and getting them talking to your team as much as you can.
Yeah, you're exactly right, though. Today's consumer online that's doing that shopping before they ever get to the dealership, it's so vitally important that you do not play around with that customer. And and nothing frustrates a customer more, and myself included, is if they bring you down a certain rabbit hole and you're like, okay, I'm making some progress here, and then click, fill this form out, and let us know who you are. And the first thing you think of is, oh, they're going to pull credit, and I'm not at that point yet. You know what I mean? I don't. Is it what's going on here? Why all of a sudden are they asking me for information like this? And
and you have the ability with a lot of the technology. I did it for a few dealers. Was if somebody starts down, let's say a digital retailing tool where they start to, play around and figure out the payments and maybe put in my trade.
Sure.
Well, there comes a point to say, well, don't you want to save your work? So we'll save time in the dealership. Give us your name. You'll save the work, and then we'll pick up where you left off. Now, two things there is that's great because it helps educate them what's in it for them. But then more importantly, when they do contact you, either through phone or they do walk in, it's really important that your team does look at that work and say, so Jim, you did this, and this, anything changed? Let's move forward.
Right.
That's really what we want. We don't want to go backwards again and start at the beginning.
That's right. And I might add, I had a discussion with an OEM executive recently, and of a very popular brand, and he told me that that's the experience that they want that prospect to have with their brand. That it's seamless, it's frictionless. That the consumer is not required to fill out forms in order to get information such as inventory or what have you. And so is that pretty much where most of the OEMs stand on this issue?
I think it is. I just don't think that they've made it. I think it's still optional for dealers. It has been over these last few years, this switch from thinking I need their name, because a lot of people are giving us fake names and emails just to get into this tool. And most people can get that information anyway from a trade tool, a third party. So what are you hiding? The easier you make it, the more helpful you make it. And the way I talk to the dealers of my clients and people who I work with is saying, how would you treat them on the lot? So if you came on the lot and pointed to a vehicle and said, tell me about this, how would I answer any question you ask me? I should be doing the exact same thing online to get them excited, because if I get you excited about the vehicle like I do when you're on the lot, and you like me because I'm helping you and answering your questions, you're more prone to stay with me, potentially buy the vehicle. Why wouldn't we do that online? Get them excited about the vehicle, get them excited about me, because how you treat them online is how they think you're going to treat them when they get there.
That's right. That's right. Hey, before I let you get out of here, talk to us about how important it is to have an optimized process for each channel: email, social, website, etc.
Right. And that ties into what we were just talking about is, if somebody's chatting, if somebody's clicking a chat button, they want help immediately. They don't want the third degree. It's just, again, I go back to what would I say on the lot. So there is a way that you can talk, and it's shorthand, really. It's like texting almost, but you should treat it like a phone call where you're asking questions. So how do I have a process for how we answer chats? Do I have a process for how we answer the phone? How do we text? How do we create our videos? What do we do through emails? All of them are different. We have a tendency to think there's only one way, and we handle or communicate that same way across all of these channels. And that's not really the way we function as humans. Texting is shorthand. Email might be longer. I can see pictures. So I think it really has to be mapped out. And a lot of times I don't think we've mapped it out. So when we said earlier, if I follow the customer of how they can connect at that touch point, do we have a process of how to handle that? Right.
And that's something that dealers need to check on, right? And be auditing their dealership constantly for things like this.
Yes. It's no different than, we have a tendency, again, to audit what we're comfortable with. Meaning, if I was a really good salesperson in person, well, then that's what I'm comfortable with, and that's fine. But all of those channels have to have some auditing process in order to train people to be better at it and give them feedback. And more importantly, what are the metrics for each of those channels? What are the metrics of success for each lead source? And once we have those mapped out, you're right, that next level is, well, who's watching this? Who's inspecting it? Who's giving the team feedback so that we can get better and become more efficient?
Sure. In your opinion, should all dealers be on social media and all of the popular channels that are out there, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube? I mean, is that something that's pretty much a standard that you recommend to clients, or does it depend on the brand that they're selling, maybe the market that they're in? Are there different factors involved in that, or do you recommend that if there's a social media platform out there, the common ones, you should be on them?
Yeah, I think you have to start. Social media is where people spend a majority of their time. They're always on their phones. They're always on these platforms. So you have to look at it and say, where is my audience? But most people now, everybody can, you can't peg a car to say, well, only this group buys this vehicle.
I know.
That's it. So you have to look at it and say, well, where are the big ones? So Facebook and Instagram are probably the biggest ones. And we would say start there with a strategy of going back originally to the beginning of the conversation of who are you, right? It's not the vehicle, because now I can get that vehicle at 3 places. But if I go online, or I'm seeing that these are great people, they're fun, they're part of the community, I might lean towards that. I'd rather you master one and feel comfortable with one than trying to do all of them. Some people are very good now at TikTok, but that takes a dealership that's posting a lot, and it's a different strategy.
That's right.
So I would recommend to dealers that, yes, you're there, but I talk to your staff, because I will guarantee you someone in your dealership is making TikTok videos, and they're good at it. For sure. So ask them if they want to help you with yours. Same thing with Facebook or whatever. Twitter is an odd one. I don't think Twitter, like for me, I don't see dealerships on Twitter a lot. LinkedIn, again, there's a different strategy that I would use for LinkedIn versus, videos and TikTok and YouTube. But absolutely, you got to be there, because that's where the eyeballs are.
And what dealer out there wants to give more money to the owner of Tesla, right? So,
well, but the interesting thing, he's actually a really good example, because if you think about it, he doesn't do marketing.
Yeah, that's right.
He is the brand.
He's the brand.
So how can your dealership become the automotive expert in your market versus the vehicle? He doesn't spend a dime on marketing Tesla, but everybody knows him. Everybody.
That's right.
He's leveraged social media to become the brand without having to pay for an ad. Like, you've never seen a Super Bowl ad for Tesla.
No.
You never will.
Nope.
You don't need to.
Nope. It's not
so that's a really good example you brought up.
That's right.
And so how can you be the Elon Musk type of a brand where everybody knows, oh, Glenn, he's the guy who can help you with a vehicle.
That's
period.
Right. That's
you get there, that's awesome.
Hey, before I let you get out of here, and I promise this is the last question, tell us a little bit about your podcast. I know that it's wildly successful. I've been on it myself. Thank you again for inviting me. But tell me a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's called You're in Charge, Now What? And it's designed to help managers, especially new managers. They get promoted, and a lot of times they're left to their own devices to figure out, how do I lead? How do I coach?
Really? You think so?
Yeah, and it's not just automotive. It's amazing. So I said to myself, I want to try and fill that gap. So through interviews and solo podcasts, each week we focus on a topic, but we're giving them tactical things that they can walk away from and say, oh, let me try that. Oh, here's how to have a difficult discussion. Here's how to coach someone I was friends with. How do I really train someone to get better? How do I organize my day? Like, all of the things that we struggle with, each week we focus on one. So every week it's streamed on every platform and also on YouTube. So thank you for the shout out. I hope people come. I think we do a really good job, and we always have interesting conversations.
There's definitely a need for it, as there's not a manager out there in the auto industry that says, wow, did I get a lot of training when it was time for me to become manager? Those words were never said. So it is an area.
And I've had a few people who are experienced and owners go, I forgot about that.
That's right.
Or that was a good reminder. And I think even for experienced people to just listen to it, because they're anywhere for the solo episodes are about 15 to 20 minutes. The interviews might go on a little longer because we're talking.
Sure.
But all of a sudden someone goes, I just listened to it as I was driving to work, and it reminded me of something. And it helped.
That's right.
And I think that's what it was designed for.
That's exactly right. Well, you're doing a good job at it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Glenn
it.
Pasch, the CEO of PCG Digital, and obviously just an all-around great guy. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.